Awesome. Hi. Welcome to the College Essay Writing Workshop, Writing an Effective College Essay. And so we'll get started because it takes just about 25 minutes to work through everything. So our plan for this session is I'll give just a brief overview of the college essay writing process. I'll provide some essay information and then some like logistical things, very kind of technical. Provide some tips for writing it, and then the steps in which you should take to go ahead and write those essays, and then wrapping up that whole process. Just to get started, my name is Tara Bennett. I work here at Washburn. I'm a teacher here at Washburn. I run our writing center, and so part of what I do every fall, and even like today I worked with a student on a scholarship essay, is I will work with students on college application essays. So yeah, that's who I am. And I work up in the media center, so you've perhaps seen me there. So talking really about the personal essay right away, and I'm going to call it personal essay more than Common App essay. At some point your language around it might change and you might start calling it the Common App essay. I'm using it interchangeably because there are some schools that don't use it, and we'll get into that in the logistical piece. But there are two goals of a personal essay, and most colleges at this point, most colleges and universities do require a personal essay of some kind. So the two goals is, one is to say, hey, I can write. I am ready to do this academic work at a higher level, and so I'm able to put together lots of words into a sentence, some sentences into a paragraph, and create a coherent message that I'm going to share with you. And I'm using punctuation, and I have good words that I can use to do that all. So that's one goal of that personal essay, to share that piece of you, that academic piece of you. The more important part of our essay writing is to share who you are, to share pieces of you that aren't shown in our quantifiables, so your numbers, the GPA, the ACT score, anything on the transcript, or the list of those activities that you do. So I think you get to share something like 10 activities in your Common App application. So it allows you to show that other side of you. That can sometimes be the more important piece that you want to share. It says, hey, I am ready to be here. I'm somebody you want on campus with you. So that is the more important goal of that personal essay. The personal essay is not just about those things that you do or who you are, right? It's not like I'm a collaborator, I'm a problem solver, I'm a leader. Those are all great words to use in your essay, but I also want to get some essence of who you are. I want to get an essence of that student, the words that you pick, the things that you choose to describe and how you do that. That shows me a little bit more of that inside, that internal you, that's really, really important when we're writing these essays. Some things that I'm looking for right away are essays that are descriptive and specific. I want to enjoy reading it. When you're a college admissions counselor, you're going to be reading thousands of these essays. So the more descriptive and specific you are, the better. I often tell students to think about our 5 senses when we're writing these essays. What are we seeing? What are we feeling? What are we hearing? Sometimes if students write about food, tell me about how things taste or smell. And I'll tell you, food essays are always really good. They grab you. It is not that list of like, I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I joined that club. It's not that. It's a whole piece of how one event, one piece of you, one thing that you like to do, one hobby, one trait that you want to pull out. It's that. It's not a list of all of the different things that you've done. And then you'll hear this a couple of times tonight about being an authentic writer, having a voice that runs from beginning of end to end through the essay. That voice must be consistent. It must be really clear that it's your own. And I will say that it's very obvious when that voice changes. So this is an essay that we often seek outside support for, whether it be parents or older siblings or the neighbor down the street. When I hope not artificial intelligence, but that is a thing because it will do it for you. But it is also really apparent when that voice leaves the the essay and then comes back in and then goes out. So that authenticity is something that's really important. I would also say when we're picking these stories about things that have happened to us or things that we've done, if it's not something that you really care about, if it's not something that you really want to share, but it just seems like something you should share about, like, oh, I had this thing happen to me where maybe like it was really hard and I got over it, but I don't really care that much about it. When you don't really care that much about it, that's apparent in the essay. That tone, right, we've talked about tone and mood in English class before, that shows up in these essays, and we want that tone and mood to be authentic and something that you care about. So most students will write two types of essays. The first is that personal essay, and like I said, you'll eventually start calling it the Common App essay. The University of California schools all use a different application process, as do some of the Wisconsin state schools that aren't Madison. So you may have to write an essay that is school specific, but they are very, very common to the Common App, or they're very, very similar, I should say, to the Common App essay. They are longer, the personal essay is longer, it's 250 to 650 words. You just write one of them, and it's something that all of the schools will take the same one of. So if you're applying to 7 different colleges, all 7 of them will take that one personal essay, most likely. And then there will also be some supplemental essays. This is something that I would say has changed significantly in the past year. So if you have an older child who has gone through this college application process, they maybe only had to write 1 or 2 supplemental essays depending on which schools they were applying to. Supplemental essays, I think this is a hypothesis that with the test optional policies that are around, they are much, much more prevalent, and more schools are asking for supplemental essays. So know that they exist, know that they vary from school to school in word count, and then also in prompt. So it's not always an essay that you can just write once and then use for all 7 of your schools. So I write my 1 personal essay and I might have 7 supplementals to write. Usually your supplementals will be shorter. I do have a very wide range up here of 140 characters, which means letters and spaces, right? That's the length of a tweet, to 650 words, which is about 1 page length in writing. Most of these supplemental essays will be closer to 250 to 400 words. So, moving back to the personal essay, there are 7 essay prompts. Usually students, and I'm going to talk a little bit about organization things, and part of the reason why is because of all of those supplementals and how they can throw a wrench into the writing process. So most of our students just write their personal essay in a Google document. You can write it directly into the Common App. It's hard to edit, it's messy, it doesn't look very clean. The Google document is just easy to edit, you can share it with people, all that good stuff. And it's something that all of our students should be familiar with. The word count is our only structural rule. So students will be like, well, so is this MLA style? Like, what do I do here? Nope, it is 250 to 650 words. There are no other rules. That's it. So to that point, when we're thinking about formatting it, there are no set number of paragraphs. It's not a 5-paragraph essay, although it could be. There are no style guidelines about what type of words you should use, which ones you should capitalize, which ones you shouldn't. It's just basic good grammar and mechanics. So there is some choice there. You need to be intentional in the decisions that you're making. Some students will write a 5-paragraph essay, some write a 4-paragraph. Some people will write 10 short paragraphs, and that turns out pretty good. They'll write 2 short ones at the beginning and at the end, and then 3 longer ones in the middle. Being intentional and why we are making those choices is one of those ways that you can show that you're a good writer, right? So it's that other goal of the essay. Here are common essay prompts, and these, even if you're not applying to a Common App school, most of those other colleges use something that's very similar. This one is bolded. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. That one is bolded because this one is very, very common at Washburn. It's not unusual to read an essay in response to this prompt. I don't see number 1 or number 3 about a background or a time a student is questioned or challenged to believe. These are all very readily available on the internet. You just Google Common App essays, and they are fairly static in that they do not change from year to year. This has been, these have been the 7 prompts for the last 6 or so years. Number 5 is also bolded because this is, again, another one that's very common at Washburn, where you discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth. Number 7 is open-ended, choose your own adventure. Very rare at Washburn, very, very popular in the rest of the country. I don't know why that necessarily turns out that way. Maybe these are the students who don't share with me. That might be it too. Number 4 is a newer prompt. It just came in this year, where you reflect on something that someone has done for you, happy or thankful in a surprising way. So it's a gratitude essay. So brand new, so this one is also rare, just because we just started seeing them. So that's why I bolded that one. So supplemental essays, it's changing seems like, I would imagine next year things will be different again. But knowing that these essays exist and giving yourself time to write them is very, very important. You can double dip, right? Like, so you can write an essay for Madison that then can transfer into an essay that reads for Michigan, because they both Michigan and Madison both ask for why do you want to go to this school, and their word count is very similar. And you can kind of massage it and change the words and change the program names and things like that. That will work, but knowing that they exist and giving yourself that time to do them is very important. So the why do you want to go to that school is a very popular one. Why do you want to do that academic program? Why do you want to be an accountant? Why do you want to be a business major? Whatever it is, you get to pick. Those are popular essays. Another prompt that I see a lot is identifying an issue that your generation is currently facing and then responding to that. Or something where it's like, here's our school's mission, how do you fit into this mission? Or how do you fit into this mission with current problems that are facing our world? And then I put the write in a 140 character tweet, because some of our schools will offer prompts that are fun, a little bit more creative. They allow you to show that side of you. Some students really love them, some students absolutely detest them. So it really is just personal, I guess, how you respond to that. I will say that the ones that are more fun, more creative, those usually lie with our schools that are more highly selective. So, and also, the more selective the school, the more supplemental essays you usually have to write. So that's something to keep in mind. This website, Supplemental Essay Guide, and in the presentation, this is a hyperlink, and this is available, this whole presentation is available on the Writing Center website. So the Supplemental Essay Guide has all of the supplemental essays at most of the universities and colleges in America on there right now. And they also provide some guidance about how you should respond to those. So it's a very good guide. I recommend that you check it, but do know that come July 30th or July 31st, August 1st, when we roll over to the next academic year, they might change. The supplementals aren't a year-to-year consistent thing. And then it's also very important that students check the Common App for these additional writing requirements. It is not unusual for a student to say, well, I think I'm ready to apply to this school tomorrow, and then I'll follow up with them and they're like, oh, I found another supplemental. Supplementals are not always easily found in the Common Application, so it's important that students keep track of them, find them, dig through the whole application before they think that they're ready to move on to the next thing. So, just some things to stay organized. I think the students who have come to me who seem the most organized, the best prepared, and just like ready to go are those who keep 2 Google Doc files, one for their personal essay and then one for their supplemental essays, and all their supplemental essays. So even if they're applying to 8 or 10 or 12 schools, that one supplemental essay file has all of them on there. And that, I think, just allows them to like copy and paste. If those prompts are very similar, then they can massage the words as necessary. Making sure that you write the word count requirements next to the supplemental essay prompts is vital, because one school might ask you the same question with slightly different words and ask for it in 400 words, and then another school might ask for that answer in 300 words. So you need to know that, because those are different essays. A 300-word essay is going to be structured differently than a 450-word essay. It might be in an additional paragraph. You have room to add more details or anything like that, but they are not the same essays. And if you're being asked for 400 words, you don't want to hand in 275, which is acceptable for a 300-word essay for sure. I recommend that you are always writing in single-space 12-point font, and the reason why is that if you ever go beyond one page on a Google document, then you have written too much. If you are sticking with your single-space 12-point font, then one page will get you to 650 words pretty much, and if you're on a supplemental and you go above that, we have to talk, because you really have to cut some stuff out then. And then you want to use line breaks for paragraphs. The common application text boxes that I mentioned earlier that are kind of funny and don't really work that well, they don't let you tab. You can't insert, you can't space your paragraphs over 5 spaces. So it's just better to use your line breaks for paragraphs. It makes things look a lot neater. So 650 words will bleed a little bit onto the second page, but not much. So writing steps for the personal essay or the supplemental essays. First things that you want to do is brainstorm. So some of you guys will spend this summer thinking about the things you want to write. Some of you may even start this spring. I know some of our English 11 IB Year 1 classes that'll be your final assignment, is writing some sort of essay. But you do want to brainstorm. You do want to start thinking about, what do I want to share? What are those pieces of myself? Some students start with the story, start with the tangible thing that I can see and hear you do. And some people start with like that characteristic or that trait. And either works. It's just however you want to get there. You do want to allow time for drafting. It's very, very important in this essay process to give yourself that time to move paragraphs around, delete entire sentences, switch things up. If you don't give yourself time for major rewrites, you're not going to be as pleased with your final product as you could be. You do want to go through the editing process with someone else, whether that be a parent, another trusted adult. Some people don't want that individual to be someone they know, so they come to me. It's not uncommon for a student to come to me, and we've maybe met in the hallway once or twice, and I'm like, you're about to share this most personal thing in the world with me. We've just met, and they're like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. I don't want to show this to my mom or my dad or anyone else. In that editing phase, we're reading for content, we're reading for word choice, we're looking at the format. Is this the best structure? Could this be 4 paragraphs instead of 5? Things like that. And then that proofreading stage is really seeking to make that writing as fantastic as it can be. Are we making the right choices with word count? Can we add semicolons instead of doing 2 sentences? So it just looks like we know how to use a semicolon. You know, things like that to show that we're a good writer, as well as just turning in the most well-done piece that we can. All of our essays need to leave your reader with a positive image. It is okay to write about things that you did that were not great, that you made mistakes in, that you had a hard time with something, that you failed a class, or you didn't do something that was really awesome to a friend, right? You can write about those things, but when I leave that essay, I want to know that you're still a good person and that you're someone I want on my college campus with me, okay? So that is one of the most important things when we're thinking about that brainstorming, what should I write about? You want to make sure that you can craft that essay so that you're left with that positive image. That consistent, authentic voice, if nothing else, between the positive image and the consistent, authentic voice, that will get you where you need to be. It's okay to not use the best words, I call them $5 words sometimes, if they're yours. So that's key. We want to make sure that we provide those necessary detail that the story complements whatever message you're trying to share. So it's always a fine line that we don't get too bogged down in the story of how you were trudging across a portage in the Boundary Waters, and there was a lot of things going on, and there were bugs, and those details, right? Yeah, there's bugs. Those details can be really, really good, but if you tell me too much about all of that, I'm going to get lost in the story, and I'm not going to see who you are through that. So it's a fine line, but you have to figure out where that works. We want to demonstrate a uniqueness or individuality. Sometimes that's through the story, sometimes that's through word choice, sometimes that's through a metaphor that we use that kind of ties the whole essay together. Sometimes that's in the way we choose to structure the essay, doing 10 tiny paragraphs instead of 4 pretty normal sized ones. So there's a lot of, or even the prompt that you select can show your uniqueness or individuality, right? So there's some different ways to do that. We want the message to be clear. Usually the first thing I'm doing with a student when they show me an essay that we're editing is I'm going to say back to them in 1 to 2 sentences, this is what I think you're trying to tell me in this essay. If I can do that, then you're in a pretty good spot to move forward with what you're doing. If I can't get those 1 to 2 sentences out about what your essay is about, we need to do some more major editing and revisions. The other thing that I think a lot of students get stuck with on the brainstorming phase is this concept of not being worried about having the right story to tell, the right pieces of themselves to tell. Our stories don't have to be serious or heavy or sad. They just need to be important to you. So that is the most important thing of this essay, that it doesn't need to, I hope you don't have to write a serious, heavy, or sad essay. I know that some of us do. I don't want you to have to write that essay. I would much rather read an essay about how you love to play Legos with your brother and that taught you this amazing piece of who you are and that relationship with that human and how that's so, so important to you. And those are really great essays when you read those because there's such warmth and authenticity in them. I really enjoy those. If you have that heavy, serious, sad story, that's also okay to write about. And those are things that students choose to write about. But if you don't have that, then don't worry about it. You can find something positive in your life and write about that instead, okay? I think it's time for questions. Ooh, 2:47. That's how much time I have left. I set my timer. Do we have any questions? There was a good one last hour where somebody asked me about the the Common App questions, and if I suggested one made you feel could allow you to be more unique or show your uniqueness. The one, and I answered it in the negative, the only one that I would be wary of is this number 6. Describe the topic, concept, or idea that you find so engaging that you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? Those essays often get like really metaphorical and they're hard to follow along. So I say if you're going to be wary of one, number 6 is the one to be wary of. So, any other questions? Yes?
Is this presentation available on the
It is. Oh, thank you. That's a good question because I can show you. So this is a. If you go to the Washburn website here, and then you go underneath academics, or you just go to me. My last name is Menet. I can't find. I'm gonna go this way instead. This is the Writing Center website. If you go under here to home and then college application essay support, there's all sorts of links in here. And also that website about the supplemental essays is linked right here, down here. And then there's the essay writing workshop presentation. So yeah. And a list of all the prompts, although if you Google them, they'll pop up right away.
Is there any assistance available over the summer?
That is a common question. I do not provide assistance over the summer I wouldn't have the capacity, and then that would be hard to say no and yes.
So Washburn does not provide?
Washburn does not. So there's usually 1 or 2 go-getters in June. and then a couple at the beginning of the year, and then my October is usually pretty busy. Yeah. So. Yep. I think that, yes?
How often do you see the prompts changing?
The Common App prompts, they've been fairly static for the past 6 or 7 years that one just came in, and that's the first change I've seen. So I wouldn't expect to change. The supplementals though, they rotate. Yeah.